Welcome to the Revive Stronger podcast with me, Pascal, and my man, the one and only, on the other side, Steve Hall. Hey Steve, how are you doing?
I am good. I'm just consuming a beverage of decaffeinated Diet Pepsi, which is like the most... what's it called? Like, it's a white girl order for some reason. Like, it's like my order at a coffee shop. I'll get like sugar-free syrup, decaf, skinny, and it's like a typical white girl order apparently. So I'm guessing that's what this drink's like.
Man, how can you do such things? I mean, when you're going to a coffee place and make such an order. I mean, why go to a coffee place at all?
Because I love coffee. But actually, Starbucks do a really good, their sugar-free hazelnut is really good. And when they put the syrups in, you can't really tell it's decaf or caffeinated too much. I could tell because I know the difference.
I've never actually had some kind of syrup from them.
I wouldn't get a syrup because I like coffee. I wouldn't get a syrup if I got coffee because it's like, I like the taste of coffee. But decaf to me, basically isn't coffee. So
no. I have actually a coffee brewery just around the corner, which makes fantastic decaf. Okay, fantastic is an over-exaggeration, but they are doing... It is good. It is good. I mean, better than some other actually caffeinated coffees. So, and not that expensive. They are just good. Around the corner, which is awesome, and helps massively because, let's be honest, I'm drinking quite a lot of coffee, and need to reduce it.
I can't believe how much my coffee... Sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent about coffee. I was just thinking how I used to drink so much. My actual coffee expenditure, though, has probably gone up because decaf and all these syrups is more expensive.
Anyway, if you want to have a read about coffee, I'm currently writing an article which will come out this Wednesday, which is all about my love to coffee. And just to give you a hint on that one. Anyway, we are not here to talk about coffee. Sorry, Steve. I want to interrupt you now here before you're saying anything more about coffee. We are here to talk about you and your past weeks, how they have been going and all that kind of stuff. And I think the first and most important thing to talk about... Hi, Charlotte, in the background.
You can see on camera.
Yeah. Got it. It is the 15th episode of Revive to Stage, so it is kind of an anniversary, which is good that Charlotte was in the background to make it somehow special and celebrate it with us. But I want actually to know first, before we are diving into what you're going to do in the future, I want to talk about your past 2 weeks and if there's anything special has been going on lately. And just give us a brief overview of your past 2 weeks, please.
Yeah. Sorry, Charlotte completely put me off because I don't know if it came out on through my microphone. She was like, "I'm in my knickers." But I don't think we could see. I think it was just her head, maybe. The past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was the week after the Mike Israel conference, wasn't it?
Yes.
So that week, as you discussed already on the last episode, I think for both of us, we just felt pretty wrecked. We were surprised because, I mean, you're dieting, so it kind of made sense. But I basically had just come out of a deload, and you were so did you. But I'm not dieting. However, that week I felt like I was really, really tired, really worn out, kind of didn't have any motivation to train, all of the symptoms that you might expect from someone who's like been overtraining. The week before I felt better, so it's kind of a bit of a strange contrast, and it might have been just some prolonged stress from like that was my third mesocycle of like high volume training, and I really went balls to the wall, but it wasn't like I was dieting during that either. So that week happened, but the past week has been great in terms of like hunger levels have been right down, food focus has kind of gone down. I will say, however, when I am doing things like I had Domino's in the week, which I didn't even actually manage to do that when I was in my marination phase, when I had more calories than I do now because I was struggling so much with hunger still. I just was like, I can't even fit it. I was eating half, whereas this time I managed to eat a whole one, and it just feels so good to eat a whole medium pizza.
And also because your fat levels were a little bit lower in your marination phase than it is right now, right?
Yeah, so before it was a struggle to fit it in because of, my fats were capped to about, I think it was around 60, 70 grams, which compared to my calories was quite low. My carbs were coming up close to 500. And then, right now my fats, it was actually more of a struggle to fit it in because of carbs. And I've just allowed my carbs to go too high, too high. During my maintenance period, I'm sure we'll talk about my kind of macronutrient setup and the reasoning behind that and stuff. And I've actually been asked how I'm kind of dealing with the higher fat intake. But yeah, this week, what I was going to say about the Domino's is I managed to fit it in, but I still have been struggling a bit. Like, I had to do your traditional, if it fits your macros approaches, and stuff myself with like vegetables beforehand to keep myself ticking over, because it hasn't been like, it's just super easy. Even when I had a consult with Jared Feather, which people will know from Renaissance Periodization, and he was basically like saying, like, you're on maintenance, but your body doesn't want to be at maintenance. It wants to be gaining weight and maintain at a heavier body weight, because you aren't made to maintain at 170 pounds. Like right now, even though in my head I'm say to myself I don't feel that lean. Like, you will tell me I'm an idiot, and people tell me like I'm super shredded. I'm like, but my body doesn't want to be 170 pounds. It wants me to gain weight. So it's little wonder. And I think it's been spoken about during the whole marination phase and everything, where it wasn't like a normal bulk and maintenance period at which the body is kind of happy. I'm kind of still a bit unhappy. So yeah, in terms of this week, food focus and like hunger has been down. Training's been fine, ticking along. I did hit, it may even be a PR, where I hit 2.5 basically times body weight deadlift for 3 sets of 5, which, I mean, looking back at the footage, I probably could have got maybe a rep or so out on each one. So I was pretty happy. 190 kilos, weighing under, I'm under 80 kilos. So I was pretty happy with those. Although this kind of training, man, what a difference from high volume training. Like, doing these heavy loads of like sets of 5, sets of 6 to 8, like, it's heavy. And it just cements to me why high volume training and kind of high intensity training do not mix, because I am like not just sore, but like achy, like joints and stuff are just like, you've like really used a lot of load there. Like, and the fatigue I felt after doing those deadlifts, like I couldn't have finished off like a decent session. So yeah, just re-emphasize the fact that when you are strong, mixing heavy work, strength work with hypertrophy work just becomes really unsustainable.
Also, sorry to interrupt you there. I also have the feeling that when you're getting leaner and you have less cushion between your joints in terms of your fats, I think that it has a higher impact on your actual tendons and joints when you're doing strength training. Because when I was a little bit more fluffier, I could actually get away with high volumes of strength training without any problems and without dealing with any kind of injuries. But when I dieted and got leaner and leaner, I had the feeling that it's not only changing my leverages, of course, but there is simply not that cushion in between your joints to actually give you a little bit more of stabilization. And
No, that's a good point, and that's actually something I remember I brought up in my adipose phobia kind of discussion, in that like you just do have cushioning, even like resting low bar on your back. Like, it's just more comfortable when you've got more fat there, things like that. So lubrication from the fat and stuff, totally. And then apart from so that's training wise, like I'm not loving it. I'm just going to the gym and just doing it, getting it done. I kind of I definitely do miss the 2 daily sessions. I miss that aspect of kind of getting out of the house and like doing more. And what I do miss is looking in the mirror and being like pumped, and like even people who follow me on Instagram will notice I'm doing less physique shots, because I'm just a bit like meh. like my physique's not really changing week to week. It's just kind of looking the same, if not maybe a bit worse, as I'm getting a bit flatter because I'm not
absolutely
kind of
looking terrible, right?
So it's a bit of a mind fuck, but I think it's good because everything that a maintenance phase is like you are less focused on your physique, you're less food focused, you're less kind of, your training motivation might be a bit lower. All of these things, like it's driving up motivation to hit high volumes, motivation to focus on my physique, look at detail coming out, focus on food and like fueling myself effectively. All of those things. So I think that's good because it's like, it's almost like I'm hating it so much that I will love dieting when it comes to it. So it's kind of driving that. And then the other weird thing, which I know we were going to talk about, is my weight. So I've hit some new lows of this year. I haven't gone this... I've dropped under 170 pounds for some of my weigh-ins. And if people have been keeping up, my weight at the end of my cutting phase was like 172, 171. I hadn't seen any 170s. And then I kind of like just kind of went fluctuated a bit. My marination phase like kind of went up, came down, and like don't really know. And then it's just kind of trickled down a little bit during maintenance. So to kind of combat that as well, I have been slightly eking up the amount of calories I'm eating. So I kind of was going 2,900 to 3,000, now going 3,000 to 3,1. And I'll probably finish up next week 3,1 to 3,2. And then the next week will probably be a bit similar. And then I'll start dieting from there. So what we theorized, because we talked about this before we came on, is that it's not going to be anything but water weight. It's not like I'm losing fat. I'm not. And if anything, and I said to you, I definitely can tell I've probably gained some fat and gained hopefully some muscle as well I was in a surplus for a stint of time. And it's just crazy to us how much water you can really hold when you're stressed. And I even talked to Mike about my weight and what it's doing. And he was like, yeah, it's just, he called it like stress bloat. And it's just crazy how much you can hold on to. And he said, he talked about at RP when they take females through this maintenance phase, because females can hold on to even more water, like through hormones and stuff as well. When they go through maintenance and they start dropping loads of weight, and then the women are like, oh, I must have like damaged my metabolism because now I'm losing weight on so much more food. And he's like, you just wait for a few more months down the line, your weight will start trickling back up. So yeah, my new low weigh-ins, like under 170 pounds. I can remember back in 2014 to dig under 170 pounds was like a big ask. Like I was like losing weight on good calories, and then to get under 170 pounds, like cardio was doubled. I had to drop like 500 calories, and it was just horrible. Whereas now I've just kind of skirted it, which is really quite cool. Like I feel I'm in such a much better position than last time.
But also, this is not only because of your experience now, you know what to do differently this time, but also you are having more time for the whole contest prep itself, and you don't need to lose, what was it for the first contest prep, 30 pounds or something?
Yeah, so I started at 190. My lowest weigh-in was it was like 159. So yeah, just over 130, just over 30 pounds, 130.
Yeah, so I mean, you had a deadline in mind. You really needed to push it and stay on track, and now you can actually, do a little bit of a slower pace because you're looking already really good. And how much weight do you have to lose to get on stage now? It is between 5 to 10 pounds effectively, which is, for the whole contest prep, not that much. This then gave you the time and also allowed you do the marination phase, do an extended diet break to some extent, and set yourself up to have a really successful and quote unquote easier contest prep. I mean, there will be the time the closer you're getting to the stage itself. It will, of course, be hard again. So every contest prep can be a struggle, but how much of a struggle it actually is basically up to you and the strategy you are putting or laying out.
Yeah, I think
And I
that's
think
really
that
good.
your approach now is a really good approach. And I don't know if you can use the term healthy, but I think the one of the most or more healthier approaches when it comes to actually prepping for the stage itself.
Yeah, I think it's helped a ton staying a bit leaner for the contest prep rather than like, yeah, having to lose 30 pounds and if people are, I think if you have to lose 30 pounds, you're not doing a contest prep. I think really if you're losing 30 pounds, you should probably lose half of that or 20 pounds of that, then kind of give yourself a bit of a break and then go again. Because as we talked about a lot before we came on air, dieting's a massive stress, and to relieve that stress takes a good amount of time. Like, it doesn't just go away, and the longer you diet for, the more weight you lose, the bigger a kind of stress it is, because your body's getting further and further dragged away from homeostasis, so it's fighting harder and harder. Whereas if you you drag it a bit away and then you kind of maintain, it's kind of getting a bit more settled with this position, and then you can go again. I think you're just going to make yourself kind of make the journey a lot easier, rather than kind of, it's just like the analogy of like driving a long journey and trying to like eke out kind of the last bits of fuel from the engine, rather than kind of stopping, having a bit of time to fuel up, rejig things, have a refresher, and then go again. It's going to be a much smoother course. So I'm so glad that I've managed to have that. And yeah, partly helped because I've got less weight to lose, and because of just foresight and planning. So it really helped me having the information that basically was provided from Mike Israetel at Renaissance, in terms of their planning with kind of their mesocycles of, periodizing their training with their nutrition, in that, like, in general, you might have 3 mesocycles of cutting, a maintenance phase, and then you can kind of go cutting again, and you don't just keep dieting. So I'd always planned ahead, because I knew I had like life events. And I do this with all my clients who sign up. I'm sure you do as well, where we look at their kind of, we have a long-term planner. We look at kind of, where do you have like any big life events, like weddings, birthdays, whatever they might be, whether we drop it, or holidays, whether we drop deloads at certain points, or whatever it might be. But for like a contest prep, I knew when my contest was, so I planned backwards where I wanted to be in time, like how much weight I think I needed to lose, and all those sort of elements. And I planned ahead, and I've spoken about this before on the Revive to Stage, in that I had maintenance now. I always knew I was doing it now, because I knew it was Charlotte's birthday, my mum's birthday. So I knew I had all of those things, which were going to be tricky to try and diet through, and better if I didn't have to. Especially because, I don't know, relationships are important when you're in contest prep, because they can really take a hit. And if I was dieting through Charlotte's birthday, it just would have, without a doubt, would have impacted what we could have done. Sure, I could have taken maybe a refeed or called it a refeed, but it's just better, because even when you do those like one-off refeeds, you're not all there. But if you're having a diet break, there's enough time for you to actually feel settled and not feel kind of just ravenous all the time. And then also, me and Charlotte planned a holiday, literally the last weekend before I start prep, to Rome. It's actually going to be, I'm kind of nervous for it, because last time,
pizza.
I know, last time we went to Italy, when we went to Naples, which is the home of pizza.
The best pizza.
Have you been there?
No, but
you need to go for just
Napolitan pizza.
We can go just for a weekend after our shows, just for pizza, because it's fucking insane and so cheap. Literally every day. I think we're there for 3 days, and I had pizza twice a day, every single day, and gelato every single day. Charlotte had gelato twice a day, and pizza normally once or twice. So,
like, if it fits in macros, crowd will just be like, "Oh yeah, buddy."
It was a holiday, Lee. Give me a break. I still tracked, because that's what I do, and I think I had like protein bars. I don't know what I was doing for protein. Pizza has a surprising amount of protein in, like 40 grams for a pizza. So
yeah, especially when you only have margherita pizza with mozzarella.
Yeah, although they're olives in Italy as well. The best olives. Anyway, so I'm a bit nervous, because Rome, again, is Italy. They have good pizza, good ice cream. So I'm kind of planning to have, I'm just going to have to plan ahead and be like, right, the rest of the day I'm eating like Greek yogurt and fruit and vegetables because I want to have pizza and gelato, because that will kind of, once I've done that, I think I'll be so sick of like not dieting and like having so little structure and having so little stress, hopefully, with the holiday. And then I'll come into dieting and be like, yes, like everything. I'm hoping my body is just so relieved of all the stresses that I've kind of got like a freeway, and like I've repaired, like it's like I'm fully fueled, I'm fully repaired, I'm good to go. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I think having the foresight and planning and having a coach to do that for you can help if you don't know how to run it for yourselves. We have loads of articles on our website that can help people do that. But having the training and nutritional periodization harmonized together has helped so much. And that's why we like getting our bodybuilding or like physique clients early, because then we can be like, right, when's your show? Oh, it's next year. Awesome. We can literally plan from that show date to now. The more we can have planned and periodized ahead of time, the better position you'll be in, because nothing will come as a shock. So I've got a client in Australia now, Andrew, who he came to me already quite lean, having been dieting. So I was like, right, we're not starting dieting now. We're going to just maintain. So we maintained for a month. Then we went into a 3-month diet. Now he's maintaining again, and he's just starting his contest prep again. And he's like seen the same thing as me. He lost weight during his maintenance phase. He's starting not to feel food focused. He's ready and pumped to get dieting again. So yeah, this has been a game changer, this kind of really structured long-term planning approach, which bodybuilding hasn't really seen a huge amount, because it's not like other sports in which they periodize and peak for, but it needs it, because it's an extreme sport. You're getting your body into an extreme condition, and as you've experienced with your prep, it's not as simple as, oh, I'm just going to start a diet and just keep going. There's stuff that happens. You have to consider what you did before, what happens during, all of these things. So I kind of went on quite a long talk, but
no, but you really touched on super important points there. I just want to give out an example as well, because I'm working now with one of my clients, Tyler, who's competing for the first time in November this year, and he has about 20 to 25 pounds to lose, which is okay for the first time. It is not that we are super stuck on that time, but we have a deadline now on which we would want to hold on to, because it's kind of a necessity, I think. Oh, wait a second, my battery is about to die. Sorry for the quality now. So back again. No, but what I actually wanted to say is that he's able to get on holiday to Vegas together with his wife here in the midst of July. And he was kind of a little bit concerned about it. He also pointed out that he's not drinking any alcohol, or he's not really into gambling, that this is really only a holiday for him and his wife. But I want him to actually enjoy that holiday, because as you pointed out as well, that relationships can take a hit while you're in a contest prep. And when you're dieting throughout such a phase, it kind of contradicts with each other, with your mentality of dieting, of being in a deficit, and you want to actually enjoy that moment with your loved ones. You want to actually have a good time with them and for them as well. And I know you are kind of that robot as well, who would be super stressed if you couldn't really stick to the deficit because you had to take care of the other people in your environment. So there is a diet break or just a long-term planning so beneficial to actually relieve the stress from you and taking care of your loved ones as well, so that the training and nutrition and the competition itself complements your life and not dictates your life. And I think this is really important for the people to know, that the training and nutrition and the stage will always be there. You can always train, right? But taking care of the loved ones, this time is limited, kind of. And I think this is so much more important than the training and nutrition that it dictates your decisions and all the things you're doing on a daily basis. I think the other way around should be the case, where you are making it work, that you are able to compete because your life is actually allowing for that. And if you can't really step on stage because there's anything going on in life, that's absolutely fine as well, I think. And when it's not the time to diet because I don't know, there's your wife is pregnant, for example, and there's a child coming. Of course, it isn't the best idea to go through a contest prep or to diet or anything like that. And I think this is way more important to actually have a six-pack or lose some weight or step on stage. And I think people easily tend to forget that. I think that this is really important to keep in mind, and especially when we are getting it back to the contest prep itself, that if you really want to step on stage, plan ahead so that you're able to still live your life without it being too invasive on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, bodybuilding as a whole should complement your lifestyle. It shouldn't ever dictate things to an extent. I know there's going to be, when you are in your final kind of, and I know in my final stretch of prep, like I've planned it, I've said to Charlotte, like, this is the time. Like I've planned things so that I haven't had to be like this the whole time, and I've been really relaxed up to there. But when we get back from Rome, I really want to be structured and like precise with things, because then if things do pop up along the way, they pop up, like, and I'll deal with it. And I know we're going to a wedding during that time and things like this that I'd already planned to be in a deload, so I've got that there. But if I can be structured and like really precise and let her know that that's what I want to be, then it will make my life so much easier and make our lives easier. And actually, it's funny because we have our mine and Pascal's Google Calendar. We're linked, so I can see now where he's put in like a deload and like a diet break, and I've done the same. Like I put in where my deloads are, because if you want, like Mike Israel says, if you want to be the best, you periodize everything, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, I think a lot of people think it sounds obsessive or wrong, but just like if it fits your macros, if you plan a day ahead, which might to some people sound really like structured and like, oh, you're not going with the flow, you're so like inflexible and like you're not living your life. But a lot of people, that actually allows them to live their life a bit more. They have that structure, they have that control. And anyone who's into bodybuilding, like me and you, Pascal, and a lot of the listeners who like lifting weights and stuff, they don't like taking a break. They don't really like the thought of having a deload or diet break. They don't like sitting back. But when you have it planned in and structured and you align it with life events at which it just makes sense, it makes it so much enjoyable. It's kind of like, okay, when we first got into kind of knowing that the food composition of what you ate wasn't the most important thing, and you could eat like pizza and see amazing results. When you first get into that, you're a bit unsettled. You're a bit like, oh, I'm not sure about this. It kind of seems a bit wrong. But after a while, you're like, holy shit. So if I hit these macros and I eat pretty much everything pretty good, I can eat like some ice cream, and I know that ice cream is actually bringing me closer to my results. That is so empowering and so nice. And it's just the same way if you like, okay, so I've got this holiday, I can't train, I can't really stick to my diet. But in fact, I make it a deload and diet break. So by eating a bit more, taking it easier with my training, I'm actually helping myself move closer to my results. Amazing. So it's kind of like that structure provides freedom. And if you have like a logical reasoning for things and you can actually provide a good solid case for it, it's actually better. Working harder is not always better. Working smarter is better, always.
Yeah, it's fun. I just need to laugh about the terms working smart.
Outwork, bro.
No, because so many people out there, I think, have a wrong idea about what that actually means, about working smarter.
Yeah.
Without going too much into detail, because this is a whole nother discussion. But I think, such sayings as working harder, and not working harder, but working smarter. I just need to laugh about stuff like that.
I think taking a diet break is working smarter and not harder necessarily. But sometimes it is harder to do the smart approach because, for example, someone's struggling to lose weight. They've got to a point at which they were planned to have a diet break and deload, for example, and they think, oh, I've been struggling to lose weight. I know what I need to do. I need to work my ass into the ground, and I don't want to take this diet break. So I'm actually not going to take this deload and diet break, and I'm just going to push through it. So they've actually worked harder, kind of, and probably won't see the result they want. Whereas someone who takes that deload and diet break, they've been smarter, and okay, it's actually hard mentally to take that, but they haven't worked harder. They've just stuck to the plan, and then they hopefully will lose the weight. Now, we can't say which scenario would like pan out, but I think a lot of people who have taken that approach will realize, especially the deload, because they're becoming more and more popular. When you kind of work that in, you can actually work harder than the person who thought they were working hard because they've pushed through and they're taper off. Whereas if you taper down planned, then you can build back up and like work your ass off.
Totally, a good example would be what I'm currently doing or did in the past week, where I had my plan, or it would have been my second week of my current mesocycle, but I pulled it back because I felt so much fatigue, and I actually took a light week. Even though it wasn't really planned into my mesocycle, I took it because I felt like, okay, if I push it hard now, I need to take that deload in the next week, or I will get fried and get injured or anything like that, which then would definitely be more detrimental to my long-term process in the long run than this short-term satisfaction, I think.
No, totally. Yeah, it's kind of like, it is just like Formula One. They go around the track and they're trying to do as many laps in as short a time as possible, but they have the foresight to plan in going into the pit stop, getting repaired so they can keep going. Whereas other people might not go into that pit stop and they might just try and keep going and they end up slowing down, breaking down, and they're forced into that pit stop and they don't have an efficient, like they're in there for longer, they have to repair more. It's the same. So it's like car analogies. You're laughing, aren't you? Because of my analogies. It's such a good analogy, though.
Mr. Hall, I actually really do enjoy your analogies because they make it so easy to understand. But I just wonder where you always come up with such analogies. Do you have a small book? Or no, that would actually be a good idea. Make a book about it. Yeah. Analogies for Life by Steve Hall.
Yeah, I had. I think I was thinking of another analogy. I've got so many analogies in my head. I could just pop them out. I think I try and simplify concepts for myself, and so I do that via my analogies, and then it helps simplify it for other people. Yeah, but onto. Oh, were you going to ask me something?
Yeah, but just throw me some ideas.
I was just going to say, someone asked me about my diet, because that has changed kind of during my massing period or marination, sorry. I was kind of quite low fat, high carb, protein stays the same. And now I've come into this maintenance primer phase. Volume's come down, so my actual carb intake has come down in line with my training volume. Fat has come up to kind of compensate for that gap, and my protein has stayed level. So at the moment I'm aiming for around 190 protein, 130 to 140 fat, which is freaking high. I think that's the highest I've ever gone with my fats. It feels really weird. And then my carbs are like 250, which isn't low carb. It's not like I've been taking the piss on my Instagram stories being like keto lifestyle, like, because I'm eating all this fat.
That's actually my current intake while dieting. Yeah, so you're on my carb intake right now.
Yeah, that was what I was dieting on as well. So it's been really hard to eat this much and keep my carbs down because I'm so used to it. And so yeah, someone asked me how am I dealing with and how am I feeling about it. Matthew Keeble. I will actually remember his name. I think you know Matt as well. He came to our conference or seminar. Who knows? So that
still uncertain.
Still uncertain. So because I actually said to you beforehand, I haven't really noticed anything in terms of physically. I feel physically the same. Because I think because it's in line with my training volume, it isn't like I need all these carbohydrates to fuel my training. I mean, I'm doing very, very little, and I'm not doing like any kind of long endurance cardio running or anything like this. So in terms of that, I feel absolutely fine. Now, kind of the psychological and like social aspects, it's been a bit hard because it's not like I've gone, if I was on a bit higher carbs, then I think it would have made everything a bit easier, because I think the way I tend to eat is high carb anyway. So then kind of eating out food meals out, generally I always saw them as like high fat, but I think that was because I'm used to eating high carb, so the carbs were never an issue. Whereas now when I go out, I'm like, hang on, these meals are high carb and high fat. Like burgers, that I always just thought of them as high fat, but no, they're actually high carb as well, because you have all the chips, you have the bun. I was like, oh, damn. So it's been a bit like, it's been frustrating. And I think I found myself getting hungrier because carbs are less calorie dense. You can eat more of them, like Snacker Jacks are like big. Oats, you can make a lot of volume. You can eat a lot of like these things. Whereas like fats, if you want to eat solely fat, like the amount of Snacker Jacks you can eat versus like you could eat three Snacker Jacks together, versus like a tiny little handful of nuts would be the equivalent calories. So from that, I think my hunger's been a bit higher, which I think a lot of people think, oh, fats and protein keep you really full. But I don't know. I'm not sure I agree. I think maybe short term they do, potentially. I don't know. I think it's very different for different people.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've been smashing nuts, avocados, olives, dark chocolate because it's slightly lower carb than normal chocolate, coconut, getting a bulletproof coffee in. No, I've not been having bulletproof coffee. I've had some desiccated coconut, whole eggs. To
get the fats all starting again.
So salmon, I've been having all of these things, which has been quite nice because I don't traditionally have them. But again, it's driving me to desire to bring my fats down. And I've done it before where I've kind of just basically, to get into my deficit, all I'm going to have to do is halve my fat intake, because that's just shitload of fat dropped. And all that means is like, oh, I don't eat a whole avocado with my meal. Oh, I don't have that handful of nuts. Oh, I switch my whole eggs to egg whites. It's easy changes. Whereas I think when you go from high carb to then dieting and you basically drop your carbs by like 100 grams, you lose so much volume of food. Oh. So I'm actually excited for the fact that will make my transition into dieting, because there's been studies on it where your body doesn't really necessarily initially recognize calorie intake, it more recognizes like food volume. So I think my actual food volume, if anything, will go up.
In the beginning.
Yeah. So, the body probably recognizes it short term. So, yeah, it's been an interesting experience, and there is a reason behind it. There is reason and logic behind it. I'm not just doing this for the sake of doing it. As we know, the more carbohydrates you eat, the more insulin you produce. You become less sensitive to insulin. So if you can reduce that for a period of time, theoretically I should be more insulin sensitive, so that when I come into my diet and I can keep carbs pretty much the same, if not a bit higher, then I should kind of see a good response. Whereas if I was high carb now, lower fat, I wouldn't really be any more insulin sensitive. So that's kind of the theory behind it. There's also other elements like the fact that density, so it's going to just make that transition easier. Also, I'm not going to see that initial big drop in glycogen storage, so fat loss will be a bit more predictable. But I will say is I haven't strictly stuck to it. So if there are days like I wanted Domino's, or like days I went out for a burger and chips with Charlotte, my carbs have gone up a bit high to like 300 grams or 350 even. I'm not stressing out about it. If I hit my protein, hit my calorie intake, I'm happy. That's good. If I can keep more structured to the high fat, lower carb, then brilliant. But it's just a bonus. So yeah, that's kind of the experience on the whole.
I think first and foremost, you mentioned that it comes down to the individual of how they are feeling about it, and I think that if you're not super lean or really obese, that there's not a big difference in taking in 100 or 200 grams more of carbs or not. That you will not feel a big of a difference, especially not on a daily basis. I think this is then more psychological, that you have the feeling that you are perhaps more energetic, more productive, simply because you think that an effect will happen.
And if you're not dieting, I think it's important. I think if you're on maintenance
Yeah,
calories.
I mean, that's what I implied with being lean, being in a hypocaloric state when your glycogen is depleted the whole time, or that your glycogen gets filled up with the carbs you were ingesting. But other than that, when you're at maintenance or in a gaining phase or anything like that, when you're not overly obese, super lean, dieting for the show or something, I don't think that it will make a huge difference in terms of your well-being, of how you're feeling. Of course, when you have an underlying issue such as diabetes, this is a whole different story, but that's not what we're actually talking about here. But what I would like to know, and I think this will be the last thing for today, I think we're close on time. When you're going to Rome, I know you are there over the weekend, right?
So we go Friday, there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back Sunday night.
How will you manage macro tracking, and do you have a strategy at hand, and how are you coping with that, all that kind of stuff? Because up until that point now, all the occasions you took part in were always kind of calculated and you were able to track those kind of things. But when you're going to Italy and you want to enjoy everything and you're going out, eating gelato, eating pizza, it is really hard to track it and also really to eyeball it every single time. So what's your strategy?
Man, you're stressing me out. No, I'm joking. So yeah, I think a lot of people do get stressed out by these situations. I would do as I always do in scenarios in which I can't kind of weigh my own food and do all my own things. So what I will do is I will take protein powder with me. I've got some amazing tasting PE science protein from my mum for my birthday, which I'll take some of that. Because protein, whatever happens, you struggle to hit protein. So I normally take some protein, have a protein shake first thing in the morning, and that kind of keeps me going until me and Charlotte probably get like a coffee or something. Again, that helps tide me over. I tend to like, what's it called? People talk about like backloading, carb backloading. I tend to like calorie backload. So I save lots of calories for the evening meal because we tend to only eat out once a day. The other meals are like, we might pick up some meats and like fruits and like some bread from the supermarket. So that happens. So then I basically, for the meals that for most of the food, you can't weigh, track, and all of those things. I mean, you can't do it very accurately. So it'll just be an eyeball guesstimation. We have an article on the website called like the definitive guide to guesstimating or estimating your macros, and that's exactly the process I'll take. I will search the food in my FitnessPal. I'll have a look, see which one I think is reasonable to the number of calories and the macros for what I'm eating. I'll input that into my FitnessPal and I won't stress about it. Because I'm maintaining weight, I'll probably maybe slightly overestimate the fat intake on that meal, kind of leave protein and carbs where they are, and so I'll slightly overestimate total calories. I'm not going to stress out about it.
Do you rather undershoot your calories then, rather be in a deficit for that giving day because you are leading into a cut, or are you trying to be a little bit above your maintenance just to be on the safe side, to take the rest of your diet break with you?
I think for me personally, I will go by feel in terms of how hungry I am, which is what I tend to do. Which when we were in Australia, we were there for like 2.5 weeks. So it became like I don't like. I wasn't even really training that much, and I just kind of went by feel on particular days in terms of my hunger. So I made sure I hit protein, but calories, sometimes they were up to like 3.5, sometimes they came down to like 2.5. So on that weekend, I think if I'm feeling okay, I'm not feeling ravenously hungry, then I will potentially drop down to like 2.9 maybe. But if I'm feeling like I'm really hungry, then I'll allow for sure like maybe up to 200. And what I think, there's a few things going on there and a few reasons for that, is that I think in my head I'm thinking, okay, if I'm not hungry, then maybe I underestimated the amount I'm eating and I've actually eaten more so that I've actually hit maintenance, and that's why I'm not hungry. And then the same goes the other way. If I am hungry, then maybe I overestimated some foods and I actually need more, or maybe because my steps have been so high. It's such a short period of time, guys. Like, I'm not going to stress out about it. That's what I wanted to come to, is that I think if I was to try and enforce hitting precise macros, or enforce like not going over my macros or over my calories for that weekend, I'd end up stressing out so much I wouldn't enjoy the time. And that's the worst thing I could possibly do, I think. My steps are going to be up because we'll be walking around Rome. My calorie expenditure will be probably maybe a good 1,000 calories higher than usual. So if I do estimate foods and slightly end up underestimating by like 20% or even more, I don't think it's going to be such an issue. The body's, especially when you're at maintenance, the body's so good at maintaining weight. Even if you do have these kind of strange fluctuations and stuff, I think it'll work its way out. And if anything, if I do end up, and I think you rightly put, like maybe even slightly overeat, because in that first diet week, I could undo the damage there. Whereas if I stress out and undereat those 2 days, not only am I not going to enjoy that weekend, I'm going to potentially set myself up when I come home to be ravenously hungry. And then starting the diet's going to be really hard, and I'll screw up that first week. And even thinking about doing that right now is upsetting me. So that's my approach. Do you think that's a good approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've covered it. You're a king of guesstimating, I think.
I think a lot of people think I'm really good at guesstimating or estimating. I don't think I necessarily am accurate. I think I'm just good at not stressing out about it and just being like, right, that's what I've put in, leave it. Because I have tried to be so accurate in the past, and there's no point, because you never can be.
And also, I think counting or estimating macros of foods is simply a skill that takes time to develop. And if you're only tracking for 1 or 2 years or even 3, this is not enough time to really have every single meal in check. And I think this comes with time. And I also think that people can overthink stuff like that.
Definitely. Because I have clients even message me being like, what would you put in for this pizza? Because obviously I eat pizza a lot. And I'm just like, this is what I put in. I'm not going to tell you it's right, because it's just what I use, and it's just I just have a consistent pizza that I kind of use and change it a bit according to what I eat, and it works because like it's such a short event that you can't go too wrong and you can't make too much of a fuck up. If I consistently had Rome having every weekend, then I could potentially really screw things up.
Oh man, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
So I think that's about it, guys.
I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, cool, Steve. Then we know what you have planned for the next 2 weeks. I'm really excited to hear how everything actually did go down. If it went as planned, if there are any struggles along the way, because those are occasions on which you need to be flexible, and I'm really excited to hear how that actually went down. And for the next week, Steve is obviously not in town, right? And we are...
Well, next weekend, I'm not in town, but Rome is actually the weekend after that. So I'm away for 2 weeks. So we might have to record the Revived Stage episode either post-Rome or pre-Rome, and so we have it ready, and then we can touch base another time about Rome.
Cool. Other than that, guys, I mean, thank you so much again for your support. If you're listening or looking at this over at YouTube, leave a comment below, put the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. This helps us massively spread the word. When you're listening over at iTunes, give us a review there. This also pushes up the ladder. And yeah, that's about it when it comes to plugs, right? We don't have so many things here to actually put out this time.
No. What I would say
No.
is, if people are listening and you have never been to revivestronger.com, you hear us talking about kind of articles, we reference them quite a lot, but definitely check out some of the articles. We put out one every single week. We'd love your feedback on those. We'd love to hear what you'd like to kind of hear about. The last one we put up was the mini cup manual, which went down really well. Yeah. And so we're going to have the one about coffee and why Pascal loves coffee. They're always full of value, full of take homes, so we don't just give you rubbish, hopefully. And if you have got any kind of requests on articles, anything in general, let us know. But yeah, we really appreciate you listening in, and we hope to see you soon.
Totally. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.